I'm reading a story this morning how the Russell Wilson trade by Seattle really jump-started what we're watching now. They got all these picks, Devin Witherspoon, Charles Cross, the left tackle, and others. So they started building. But what's interesting is, at that time, Russell Wilson was good. But he was viewed by John Snyder, the GM, as not good enough. And that's what you can take from the Seahawks Super Bowl. You're not going to duplicate this defense, the dark side. You're not going to go 8 for 8 the next 4 years on your top 2 or 3 picks in the draft. You're not John Snyder. You don't have that. What you can identify as something to emulate is what the Seahawks did. It's the same thing the Niners did with Garoppolo, who got to a Super Bowl, and San Francisco said, we're not going to settle. It's what McVay said to Jared Goff, who got to a Super Bowl. We can be better at that position. It's what Andy Reid and the Chiefs said, even though Alex Smith got Kansas City to the playoffs. We're not going to settle for that. The Eagles with Wentz, we found something we think is better. You can laugh at this, but the Bucs had Jameis Winston, who led the NFL in passing yards, was second in passing touchdowns as the league was transitioning to an offensive league. And they said, no, we're going to get the old guy Brady. It's not.
We're just going to ignore all the interceptions that Jameis Winston had.
Good enough. Gosh. Jameis Winston was wildly productive.
No, he wasn't.
Pete Carroll, by the way.
No, he wasn't.
Thought Geno Smith was good enough.
Oh, my God.
And he got whacked. Mike McDonald got 1 year of Geno Smith. Got him out of the building. We're upgrading. That's what you can take from the Seattle Seahawks. Don't copy their identity, copy their mindset, which is don't settle. I'll give you a great example. This works. This is a two-way street. DeMarcus Lawrence, loves Dallas, played with Dallas, wanted to end his career with Dallas, went to Seattle, and he didn't do it for the money. He only got like $18 million guaranteed money. DeMarcus Lawrence, do you remember when he said this?
You know, Dallas is my home. I made my home there. You know, my family lives there. You know, I'm forever going to be there. But, you know, I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there.
I'm not going to settle for the Dallas Cowboys nonsense. I'm going to go to better structure. A non-meddling owner, in his eyes, a better coach, a better system, and a better roster.
Yeah. You know, this whole thing is funny because I actually made a clip around that clip, but the reality is the Cowboys didn't want him. And I'm not saying that that was the right move because I was like, I defended him and made a Cowboys video about that. And then I did even a victory lap because Nick Wright laughed at Lawrence, you know, saying that and all of that. And so I did a victory lap on that take, but like also it's not like he was just like, you know, I want out of here because of this, that, and the third. Like that's not how that unfolded. But I mean, yeah, they got rid of Russell Wilson and then they had Geno Smith for like a couple years, I believe. So, and then they went out and got Sam Darnold. Let's not pretend like they thought Sam Darnold was going to be this larger than L life elite top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Let's not pretend that. Like seriously, that's not what the market was dictating around Sam Darnold. I find someone who has been more positive about Sam Darnold, and especially Sam Darnold and the SE Seattle structure. You're not going to find them. But let's not pretend like the Seattle Seahawks were out here saying, we know they wanted Geno Smith. Geno Smith left. They were okay with Geno Smith. Seahawks wanted to keep Geno Smith and DK Metcalf, but had to pivot. GM says the Seattle Seahawks traded quarterback Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders after it became apparent the two sides wouldn't be able to come to an agreement on an extension. GM John Schneider said, Thursday, so no, let's not have revisionist history now. Let's not have revisionist history. Because also, what happens if the Vikings kept Sam Darnold? Then what happens to the Seattle Seahawks? So this whole idea of like, no, the Seahawks were just on this relentless pursuit to upgrade and that's why they won. No, that's not. They were just really smart. That's in every step of how things unfolded. When they had to pivot, when they faced difficult situations, they made the best with what they had to work with. They saw the value in players that maybe others didn't, like a Lawrence, like a Sam, etc. They were still set up to make their own mistakes like all teams, all GMs, all owners, all coaches make, because there is a real situation where Geno is still the quarterback and Sam is not. But because it didn't unfold that way, they were then smart and did the next best thing. But, they drafted Sam, they signed Sam, and they still drafted another backup, another quarterback who people were like, this is supposed to be their next quarterback. Sam's just a bridge quarterback. That was a conversation that I bashed, by the way, that I said, that's not true. Sam is your starter. And people were like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, yes. And also the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, they went out and tried to get Trey Lance, and that did not work. That exploded in their face. They then went out and got Brock Purdy because they were lucky that he ended up even just being a competent quarterback as the last pick in the draft. That was really lucky for them because they gave up a lot of draft capital to get Trey Lance. And that ended up blowing up in their face. And now they got to one Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, a quarterback who Colin doesn't even think is that good. Thinks that he's essentially, slightly better than Jimmy Garoppolo. So let's not use them as an example. Does this make sense? So to me, that's not what made the Seahawks great. That's why I'm pushing back against this. As someone who followed them so closely, they were able to navigate each situation that arose. Anytime they thought they were going to go left, but now they needed to go right. Anytime they made a mistake, but then they either were going to pay the consequences for it, but found a way through it, or were lucky that they weren't going to now suffer the consequences and then were able to do the next best thing. Like, that's what it came down from. They hired the right coach. They built the right defense. They drafted appropriately. They hired the right offensive coordinator. They made the right decisions. But the core of it wasn't this relentless pursuit of not settling. That's not the case. That's just not. But it was smart to move on from Russ and move on from Pete Carroll and hire Mike McDonald when everybody was all about offense, offense, offense. They said, we care about defense. Drafting, getting Jackson Smith and Jigba, having a 2 running back attack, all that stuff. But we can celebrate the Seattle Seahawks, which I've done, with the best of them, but we can't have revisionist history. We can't. Those are just my thoughts. Absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Seattle Seahawks? How they won it all? What other teams can replicate? I mean, it's kind of funny because as I lose my camera, the replication is that they built an awesome team, a stacked roster, which is Colin said they have a stacked roster. And I said that before the Super Bowl even hit. I was like, guys, make no mistake about it. This is a stacked roster. This is a great team. This is the best team in the NFL. It's like, how do you replicate that? You just build a stacked roster? I don't know. You draft some players, you go out and get some players. Again, Cooper Kupp was another great acquisition. They saw value where others didn't. Guess what? Colin knocked that take. He said Sean McVay was smart for getting rid of Cooper Kupp. That's what he said. Seahawks said, okay, great, thank you very much. Who will be our leading receiver in the Super Bowl? So let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.